Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be checking out an absolute smashing machine in the form of Colossus in Labyrinth of Legends. Colossus honestly made this feel like a casual quest. I have had longer average fights in Alliance quest on quite frequent basis. An average 1.5 million opponent Colossus took down in about 100 hits plus or minus in about 2 minutes. So I definitely have had a longer Alliance war and Alliance quest fights than that. And before we get to kind of like the crazier fights, I will explain the setup. Of course, I actually managed to squeeze in quite a lot of fights in this video, and I didn't even have to speed up any of them except like Maestro fight, because Maestro fight took whole 5 minutes, and that was clearly far too long for this type of video. So anyways, for this run, I was actually using also mutant power boosts, so keep that noted. I used a mutant 200% special power boost, and the setup was to bring in Omega Red and Emma Frost, which are typically the most core necessity synergies for Colossus to make him an absolute insane damage machine, especially Omega Red. That increases Colossus attack based on the amount of armors he has active. Now the other two synergy slots went to Apocalypse and Professor X. Now I did a little messing about, shenaniganing with Professor X, and I did manage to get him up to 4 Cerebro charges. So I basically used my synergy partners to take down opponents to like 1% health and finish the fights with Professor X. If I had like a 5-star Professor X, I would likely have been able to avoid messing about as much at start. But anyway, so we have fully ramped up Professor X, which enables Colossus to have a huge poison resistance. So Colossus was healing throughout this entire quest very easily and very effectively, and then obviously that also increases Colossus special damage by 100%. And those were kind of like the main things that we gained there. And then I had Apocalypse, who had made Colossus his horseman, giving him additional 50% prowess, additional ability accuracy, and that ability accuracy actually helps Colossus quite significantly, improving his ramp up speed, because you typically trigger more armor ups with your level 2, and you have a higher chance to convert those armor ups into those temporary armor ups into permanent armor ups once they expire. So you basically ramp up quicker and hit harder. So that is the full team: Professor X, max Cerebro charges, Apocalypse, Colossus, Omega Red, and Emma Frost. And I was also running Suicide Masteries. Now I didn't have the most aggressive Suicide Mastery build. I didn't have like maxed out glass cannon. It was a fairly kind of like my casual suicide questing setup, but that was more than enough to make this into the most enjoyable Labyrinth of Legends clear I have ever had in my life. And yeah, an average fight honestly took about 2 minutes, and you guys can check that during this video yourselves by going through like time codes and stamps. But yeah, even Ant-Man, here you can see Ant-Man. At this point we are 71 hits in the fight, and Ant-Man's already halfway down, and obviously those 71 hits also included Colossus getting ramped up. And at this point here you can see, even when we don't crit, Colossus absolutely butters the guy down, and his basic attack damage is already quite impressive, especially if we do manage to sneak in some crits, like there was a casual 45k crit on medium. And at some point, I think against X23, we're actually going to get to a point where my light attack crits reach the 50k damage cap. Light attack crits 50k. That is an absolutely insane damage output. This particular Daredevil fight I left in because I think it was like 88 hits or something like that. It was a very quick fight once again. I was trying this time kind of like specifically for this fight to parry as much as possible for once with Colossus, and kind of like try and get as many armor up as early as I can, and mission accomplished. And here we can see that the damage is already being ripping out loose on the initial hit. So for those of you who are not particularly familiar with Colossus and the synergies that I mentioned before with Emma Frost and Omega Red, I'll quickly explain that, as we can see some beautiful 50Ks in the background. So the base idea is Colossus functions on his armor ups. Whenever he parries the opponent, he gains an armor buff. And then if he's awakened, when those temporary armor buffs expire, he has a chance to convert them into permanent armor up buffs. Additionally, on level 2s, which is the special attack of choice for Labyrinth of Legends, for me, you have a chance to trigger a temporary armor buff per every permanent armor buff you have, and it all kind of like works in a loop, in a cycle, where you trigger these temporary armor buffs and then they get converted into permanent ones. You can have up until 20 permanent armor buffs, but you can have basically as many temporary ones as you want. Additionally, Colossus gains critical damage per every armor buff that he has active. Then also you have Omega Red synergy, which grants him additional attack for each armor buff active, and Emma Frost synergy works similarly, that increases his power gain for each armor buff active. So basically, when you get a ton of armor ups, you have an absolute heap ton of extra attack, crit damage, and power gain that lets you spam special 2s, which in exchange lets you get more armor ups, and it just goes into an absolute enjoyable loop of insane amount of damage. Now, you do want opponent to be aggressive in order to kind of like reach the highest of highs of damage, because you do want to drop your level 2s frequently in order to keep amplifying and multiplying the armor ups that you do have. And this fight is going to be against X23, as we can see, and it's an absolute destruction. It hardly took any more than 2 minutes. I think it was still under 3-minute mark. Here we can see that we are already chipping that X23 down. Now keep in mind that Colossus doesn't have any debuffs or any way to deal with the regeneration X23 has at all whatsoever. This is pure damage against pure regeneration, and pure damage is kicking the regen's bottom end. And yeah, so unfortunately here she doesn't want to cooperate with me, so I do lose the armor ups that I had built thus far. However, we're going to come back, and we're going to come back quick, and we're going to come back stronger. If she had thrown that level 2, I would have finished the fight significantly faster. Here we can see that we have again pretty much 350Ks on this special 2, and yeah, that's a casual 180K with the damage cap being in place, and it could have been actually significantly more should that damage cap not exist. So for most part you can hit these special 2s for 200,000 damage or close to that, or if Assassins lets you bypass the damage cap in the last 18%, then you can hit for a lot more, as we're gonna see later on when Colossus drops casual 555,000 critical hit on the last hit of his special attack, and the first 3 hits of that special attack basically were all for 50,000 as well. So that was effectively like a 700,000 special 2 that you casually drop in a very quick fight. And here we saw that that last combo pretty much all crit. Every hit on a regular combo was 50,000 damage, every hit. So that meant that a single combo, Colossus casually attacking X23, did 250,000 damage. Now those are probably the most absurd realistic numbers that you can get. There are champions obviously who can produce some really ridiculous damage after a really long build-up or very specific conditions, but Colossus can access this type of damage with this setup in every fight. You do not need opponent have some sort of special abilities, you don't need any nodes, you don't need any special kind of like super long ramp up. Only thing you need to do is hit the opponent, drop your level 2s, and be done with it. and that is just so satisfying. That is pretty much the reason, one of the main reasons why I enjoy using Colossus so much, because he's a very easy to use champion with, in my opinion, highest practical damage in the game if you are actually dedicating a team to him. You do not need to kind of like with Thing nearly die and get hit and play with no health. You do not need to fulfill 4 missions like with Proxima. You just need to hit the opponent and drop your level 2s and watch big numbers fly about. And now we're gonna have a fight against the Venom, where I think was the first time I properly bypassed this damage cap with quite ranked up Colossus. I did get tagged there once, unfortunately, but Apocalypse's ability, Horseman of Apocalypse, saves me, where I did go unstoppable, and now we're gonna go into some juicy level 2s once again. And yeah, so casually critting 27k on my mediums, and that's not even Colossus kind of like significantly ramped up there at that point. Now we have even more armor ups ready. I kind of gave up to baiting out level 1s, purposely pushed the Venom to the level 2s, just take it in block, because Colossus is an absolute tank. I'm not even bothering with level 3s, but here we saw 245k crit on the 3rd hit of my special 2. The 245 crit is roughly about half of the strength the final hit of level 2, the 4th hit would deal, so that would have been again something like 490k damage if the final hit of level 2 crit and bypassed assassins. It didn't, but still we finished the fight out. So 240k casually. At that point, obviously, I thought I have my headline, I have my screenshot, I have the money shot, but I did not possibly foresee what's gonna happen in this Iron Fist fight. And this could be the most ridiculous crit that I have gotten in Labyrinth of Legends ever. And if you have been following the channel, you know that I like to hop in Labyrinth of Legends quite frequently to test out champions and have some fun streams, and yeah, I guess I generally enjoy the content. But yeah, so here we are ramping up Colossus. We have already a bunch of armor ups, not quite 120 like we had against X23, but still decent amount. Now there I shouldn't have went for that heavy attack. I don't know why I did, but it didn't really hinder me much. I still managed to get to my next level 2 in time in order to keep pushing up that armor up count. And now let's just get ready. I'm gonna loop this a few times. I'm gonna put this on replay and I'm gonna slow it down. At level 2, 49k, 50k, 49k, and 555k. So that's over 700,000 damage in one level 2 with the damage cap of Labyrinth of Legends, because it would have additional 150, 170k damage on that other crit from the previous hit. So that is some absurd amount of damage, and it's so fun. Now we do also have the Maestro solo. Quite obviously it wasn't like overly tricky fight or anything like that. Unfortunately, due to Maestro's kind of like long animations, I wasn't able to maintain super high armor up count throughout the entire fight, because yeah, those special 1, special 2 animations are quite lengthy. In addition to that, I couldn't hit his block and I had to play like in a bit more conservative way, because if I were to strike his block, then I'd lose power, and that's extremely crucial for this kind of like Colossus playstyle. So yeah, the fight wasn't long. It's still a very quick Maestro takedown. It took about 5 minutes or so, and that's one of the fastest Maestro kills that I have had, to be honest. It's under 300 hits, but the numbers will not be like as crazy as we saw in the previous fights. There will not be like 50k light crits. We have like modest 28, 29k medium crits and 25k light crits in some occasions, I guess. But yeah, that will also is pretty much it for today's video. So yeah, just a quick recap. Super enjoyable Labyrinth of Legends clear. Fights typically took about 2 minutes, about 120 hits, sometimes less than 100 hits, depending on the crit RNG and all that stuff. The setup is Professor X with max Cerebro charges, Apocalypse that made Colossus his horseman, then obviously Omega Red and Emma Frost to gain additional attack and a huge amount of power gain increase, running Suicide Masteries, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, I'm also running the Mutant Special Boost, which is not necessary by any means, but still just gave me slightly more power from my special attacks back, and that obviously helped me get to my level 2 rotations quicker and quicker, and that is important. That is the key aspect using Colossus in these long fights. You want to spam level 2s back to back to back as quickly as possible, while you have as many temporary armor buffs as possible active. But yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit all the buttons. Share it with your alliance mates, I'm sure they will enjoy it too. I absolutely love this run. And yeah, I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya.